Sometimes. Sometimes I wish we could go back to the way it was before Alzheimer's came into our life. Sometimes I think back to that diagnosis. There was no single test. I drove Mum from one doctor to another for medical exams, blood tests, psychiatric assessments, and brain scans. It was only confirmed after her death. Sometimes I still can't believe that doctors do not know why some people get Alzheimer's. It seems to be a combination of environmental, genetic, and health factors. Sometimes it doesn't just affect the elderly. Alzheimer's doesn't discriminate race or gender. Sometimes we need to consider the risk factors of being less mentally and physically active, smoking, obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Sometimes I couldn't comprehend that a disease that affects so many people worldwide still has no cure and no treatment that can stop the progression. Sometimes I try to figure out at what point my denial stopped and life's new reality hit me. I was alone. Sometimes I wondered how Mum could look so good physically. We couldn't see the amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles in her brain. They were stopping the communication between nerve cells and causing them to die. Sometimes at the beginning, Mum would forget things, repeat herself, and then get angry. It was her frustration at the gradual decline in cognitive abilities. Sometimes Mum just cried. She became emotionally unpredictable. Confusion and disorientation were commonplace. Sometimes Mum couldn't find the right words, and it sounded like a monologue of gibberish. Sometimes it hurt when Mum just glanced over things that were once important to her. Sometimes I was tormented when Mum didn't recognise me, her youngest daughter. She looked at me, but didn't focus. Sometimes I had to face it. I couldn't bring Mum back to reality. I just had to create a sense of security. Sometimes there was a glimmer of hope. A song on the radio would trigger a memory. Decades-old recollections would cause a beaming smile. Sometimes I had to laugh. Mum holding an item of clothing with no idea what body part to put it on. Sometimes I felt like I was the parent, putting in night lights and safety gates. Security had to become a priority. Sometimes it became too risky to leave Mum alone. She might wander or hurt herself. Sometimes I felt scared when Mum became agitated. I was not always strong enough to subdue her. Medication to keep her calm became part of our life. Sometimes we enjoyed non-drug therapy together. The activities and music therapy helped keep both of us socially connected. Sometimes I needed a break from Mum. Home help came in daily, but respite care was still essential for my mental health. It was hard not to feel guilty, though, seeing the confusion on her face. Sometimes the day was so bad, I felt like giving up. I thought I was a bad daughter for wishing that death would come soon. Watching Mum decline over 7 to 10 years was so hard to deal with. Sometimes I resented my mum. Toward the end, my life was rushing past me as I fed her, washed and dressed her. She was a child again, and I became the parent. Sometimes after her death, the relief for both Mum and myself washed over me. Sometimes I had to cope with my anger, as well as a sudden lack of purpose. So much of my time had been taken up as a carer. I had missed out on seeing some of my own children's events. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by sadness for what was lost and everything in my life that Mum missed out on. But always, I yearned to have my mum back, and I remember how much we meant to each other.